Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network, and today's topic is values or impulse. And we're going to be talking about taking a pause when we are inclined to fall into automatic reactions, and then assess what are our true commitments. Anyway, it should be a fun conversation. Good morning, Rosalind. Welcome. Welcome to everybody else who's joining us as well. And before we get started, let's just take a couple minutes to get present. So let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding into your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, relieving any stress, negativity, tension as you exhale, and allow yourself to just relax into your body. And let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, your molecules, your electrons. And as you exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together, vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the motion, the pressure, the temperature, and the tickling and tingling when you stop. And allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables you to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning. So we're looking, good morning, good evening, Gia. So good to have you here with us. So we're talking today about values or impulse. And lots of our encounters or experiences in life give us an opportunity to step back and take a pause. And when we step back and take a pause, we may give ourselves the grace of making different choices. And so if we're, for instance, confronted by someone, rather than falling into a knee-jerk reaction, if we can give ourselves the grace to take a pause, then we can perhaps weigh our options a bit. And rather than just going with the impulse, we can allow ourselves to evaluate whether that action is in alignment with who we are and who we are choosing to be. And so part of this, I think, comes from a conversation with a friend about my body wants this and my mind wants that. And my question to them was, why is it that the body wins? And ultimately, that immediate impulse from the body, a primal desire, is that in alignment with who you choose to be in life? Do we want to defer to the momentary desires, or can we step back and view the circumstance from a broader perspective and then choose based on that, and with that broader awareness. Because when we allow ourselves to step back into this broader view, things look very different. We can see the interrelationship between things. We can see the consequences of our choices more broadly. And when we have a narrowed view, we are seeing things from a very constrained kind of perspective that is not as connected, that is not as aware. We might find ourselves doing this with food. I certainly have had compulsive food behaviors in my life. And if I can muster the will to stand back and look at the choice, first of all, as a choice, rather than just being on automatic, acting on impulse. But then if I can stand back and recognize the choice in the greater context, to, for instance, ask myself, does this choice align with what I desire, my greater desires for myself? You know, does this choice align with my values? Does this choice support me in living the life that I desire for myself? And so I think, as always, it's an act, it's a moment of grace, I think, when we get the opportunity to stand back and look and have some perspective on ourselves, because most often we're just deeply immersed in the experience and aren't necessarily self-aware in those moments. And being able to cultivate that self-awareness, being able to cultivate the gift of standing back and observing, I think it is a gift. It is a gift because it enables us the opportunity for breath, like space to breathe, to stand back and say, oh, this is a moment of choice. And what am I basing my choices on? And is my choice in this moment in alignment with my greater being, my higher intention? So let's just look, like, what goes on for you when you're faced with a choice. Yesterday we were talking about how terrifying it can be to follow your dream and to step into that unknown, a more expansive sense of self, to be treading in new territories. I think that too is a choice. And the truth is that we are constantly faced with opportunities to choose. And probably more often than not, we don't exercise that choice. We just are pretty much on automatic pilot. Lots of the things that we accomplish in life are parts of routines, right? And I'm saying activities that we do. There are common routines like taking a shower, making a bed, brushing your teeth, making a meal is often an automatic experience rather than something that we presence ourselves to. Rosalind says something is true if it's true now and always. If I take away the impact of time, it is still true. Well, that's very interesting because I don't know of too many things that are always true. So something can be true in this moment, in my experience, something, and so Rosalind says, is it still true? If I take away the impact of time, is it still true? I don't know. There aren't many things at this moment that come to my awareness that meet that criteria for truth. I think maybe you're talking about true with a capital T, just like reality with a capital R. And I don't know if that's something that we necessarily have access to. Because even with science, things that we have held true are changing. We're finding out that there are new laws in big quotes around how the universe works, and whether, we believe that the Big Bang is true, and then there are people saying that no, that was a misperception, that it isn't, that it didn't happen that way. So Gia says, I think truth is momentary perception most of the times. I'm kind of with you, Gia. I mean, even when we look at history, right? We're taught certain history. We're taught that that's what's true. And in this country, history is getting rewritten pretty intensively because there were all kinds of omissions in history that were really egregious, or perspectives about who was a hero. Like we traditionally have revered Columbus in this country, and now we're looking at Columbus through different eyes, and there's a degree of villainy there. And so what are the things that we hold as true? When we're talking about truth, I think we're talking about belief, and belief is something relative. I mean, maybe we can agree that it's true that the earth revolves around the sun. There are people that actually believe that the earth is flat. And I don't know what they think about the earth revolving around the sun. I mean, maybe there's an ultimate truth with a capital T, and I don't know what degree of access we have to that any more than we have access to reality with a capital R. I don't know that we really have a clue about what's going on here. I mean, maybe we can look at statistics, and these statistics are true, but we know that statistics can be manipulated as well to serve different agendas. So I don't know if correlating truth to time is necessarily a foundation for a solid definition. But Rosalind, I'm curious because you come up with these wonderful insights, and I'm wondering if you're thinking of something particular when looking at, or putting forth that definition of truth. Like, is there something that transcends time? The one thing that's occurring to me now is the intelligence of the universe. But that to me, it looks like truth, like maybe capital T truth, but there are lots of people that would disagree. So then, is truth something that is accessible to all of us? Is truth something that we universally share? I don't know. I don't know. So this goes back, let's go back to our conversation about values or impulse. Like, how do we want to live? Do we want to live according to our values? I think there's a distinction here to look at between the values we think we should hold and the values that we do hold, like our true core values, the values that are foundational to who we are, that remain constant. So with values, we do a balancing act. I think that we have certain values that, when we're looking at this idea of choice, in the moment, I might really want to stuff my face with popcorn yesterday. and and I have a desire, an intention to be eating more mindfully, right? But in that moment, I met the impulse rather than the greater intention. As far as values go, I don't know that it was a challenge to my values to allow myself to cave to the impulse in that moment. I don't think it, but it wasn't necessarily serving my higher intention. I went with the impulse. And we then get to say, to observe that when we follow our impulses rather than our higher intentions, we can observe that, and then we can choose how to be with that. And that's maybe where values come in, where I'm cultivating a deeper compassion and kindness to myself. And curiosity actually is one of the values. So I can look at my behavior and I can be curious about it, to say, well, isn't that interesting? What was going on? What's that about? What's underlying that? And so that inquiry serves my values. That inquiry serves the value of curiosity and learning and awareness and consciousness and expansion in my awareness. So the idea is to be able to choose, to find grace, that moment that allows us the opportunity to have a greater perspective. I'm looking also, when we think about valuing self and others, this one person that I was engaging with, the one that was having the body-mind conflict, has been in a relationship where their partner has actually admitted on more than one occasion that they deliberately did things to be hurtful to this person, and in a calculated way, with some regularity. And I said, I understand all these reasons that you might be leaning into this relationship, and this person has told you more than once that they have gone out of their way to hurt you. And what does that speak to about your valuing yourself? What does it speak to about your sense of worthiness, that it's acceptable to you to be in an intimate relationship with somebody who is hurting you ongoingly in a deliberate fashion? That's a very interesting question. And it's fascinating to me to see how well we can rationalize and justify pretty much anything, and how we can manipulate our thoughts so that the very thing that is so that we seek out the very thing that is destructive to us, and justify that on kind of a spiritual plane, to say, well, I'm learning, um, I'm learning how to see the best in this. It's kind of remarkable to me to see how we can twist our thinking to believe almost anything. I saw this most remarkable interview on, I think it might have been TikTok, where somebody was interviewing someone who was a QAnon person, and this person was talking about how Joe Biden wasn't really Joe Biden, but they were an actor wearing rubber masks, and that actually Trump was running the country from behind the scenes. And I mean, and that he was going to be the next president. And I mean, on and on and on. We don't know if he's going to be the next president, but on and on with all of these understandings that truly defy any kind of truth that we're exposed to collectively. It was just mind-blowing to see how we can twist reality, or our experience and the information that's available to us, to create these what seem to be crazy perspectives on things. And yet we all have our own ideas that other people probably think are nuts. So Rosalind says, I question, what is my purpose? A vision to have a healing practice comes to mind. If it happens 4 years from now versus 10 years from now, taking away the sense of time helps make the vision attainable, versus ultimatum mindset of how am I going to make that happen? I love that, Rosalind, because just when you have a dream, it doesn't necessarily have to be time bound. So you've been talking about having a healing practice for quite some time, and I know that you're making preparations for it and you're moving in that direction. I think that's a wonderful thing. I was talking yesterday about my dream of having an RV, and it's been more than 25 years in the making, and it looks like it's happening now. So, I thought I was ready for it 25 years ago, but time passed, and it's so bizarre because it feels like yesterday to me. It's so funny. I have no sense of time over time. I'm on time, but as far as months or years, I just don't track it very well. typically. And it's still like, that's still been a desire and dream for me that I've held all that time. And so I say, hold the dream, live into the dream, and allow it to unfold. And you take the action when the opportunity presents. Anyway, that is it for today. And I invite you to, when you find yourself, when you have the moment of grace to find yourself doing something on impulse or reacting, take a breath, take 3 breaths before actively choosing. You might choose to stuff your face with popcorn in that moment, but at least you had the opportunity, gave yourself the opportunity to have a choice. And with that, I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. And I invite you to check out the other awesome programming on Enlightened World Network and Enlightened World Living. And I'm ever so grateful to have the opportunity for these talks every morning. So